Hi, welcome to my live stream. I'm the collector of coins, and we're going to do a quick confirmation that the live stream is working correctly. So if you would excuse me, I want to make sure this is all set up correctly. And I can see that unfortunately, the thumbnail is the wrong thumbnail. So I want to make sure that that gets corrected real quickly so that people are not confused. So if you wouldn't mind giving me one moment to do that, we'll get this live stream underway. Tonight we're going to be reviewing 20 peace dollars that I picked up. I'm a coin dealer, so I was very lucky to be able to pick these up at a coin show. We're going to look at them and we're going to grade them together. I'm going to walk you through the process of grading coins. I took a course from ANA, the American Numismatic Association, back in October. So I have my notes for that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to share that information as we look at the coins that I purchased. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, if you happen to like my channel and you're not a subscriber, hoping that you would consider subscribing. If you're not yet a subscriber, please turn on notifications. We just hit a fairly major milestone. We hit 4,000 subscribers, so I'd like to thank everyone who's a subscriber for your support of my channel. All right, still want to move over the right thumbnail. So we'll do that right now as we're waiting for people to join the stream. Okay, we'll get that going. And there, the information got sent out. And then I don't see anyone has joined just yet, so we will wait for folks to join. But as you see on the screen right now, I have a 1925 peace dollar. It's made out of 90% silver. Let me give you a little bit of information about the peace dollar as I'm getting this thumbnail together. So the peace dollar was minted from 1921 to 1935. And I'm actually going to read a quick passage out of the Red Book, which is the official guidebook, or it's the official Red Book it's called. It's a guidebook of United States coins. Okay, well, let's see here. So the peace dollar was a new design issued from December 1921 through 1935, and it was a commemorative peace coin. The peace dollar was issued without congressional sanction under the terms of the Pittman Act, which refer to the bullion and in no way affected the design. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I believe the act was referring to the fact that we could issue coins minted out of silver, but that didn't talk about the design explicitly. So the peace dollar was designed by a medalist by the name of Anthony DeFrancisi. His monogram is located in the field under the coin on the neck of Liberty. And as you can see, it's located right there, in between and above the date, specifically the last two digits of the date. The new peace dollar was placed in circulation on January 3rd, 1922. Just over 1 million pieces were struck in December of 1921. That design was originally a high relief, so it's called the high relief of the 1921 design, and that was found to be impractical for coinage and was modified to a lower shallow relief, which is what this 1925 has. 1921 and the early part of 1922, making them both scarce, with the 1922 Type 1 being very scarce. I'm not reading this, I'm narrating this from my own knowledge, are worth more. And frankly, the design is much more dramatic as everything is elevated much higher. Most notably, you can see this in the hair. which is raised much higher than what you're seeing in this current relief. So what else about this coin? So it was modified in 1921 after 35,000 coins had been made, and most of them were melted at the mint. There was a rare matte and satin finish proofs of 1922, which are both the high relief style of 1921 and the normal style relief. Legislation, this is what I think is very interesting, dated August 3rd, 1964, authorized the coinage of 45 million silver dollars and $316,000 of the piece design dated 1964 were actually struck at the Denver Mint in 1965. So even though the peace dollar was discontinued in 1935, they were struck in 1965 for a 1964 date. However, the plans for completing this were abandoned, and most of these were melted. None were preserved or released for circulation, although there are a lot of reproductions. All right, so that's a little bit of history on the peace dollar as it is documented in the Red Book of U.S. coinage, which if you don't happen to have a copy, I strongly recommend that you pick up. It is a terrific source for collectors, particularly if you are new to coin collecting. It's got all the key issues, well, pretty much every coin ever minted, and you'll have information about market value. You can think of it as insurance value. It's not necessarily what the price of what a coin dealer would pay for it, but you get a sense as to what the insurance value is. Okay, well, we have the thumbnail changed, which makes me much happier, so that people, when they come across this live stream, and I'm hoping you're doing so right now, are able to see the right thumbnail. And I see that there are a few people watching, so thanks for tuning in. All right, that being said, let me give you some information behind what we're doing tonight. Right, so as I said in the intro, I went to the American Numismatic Association. I have a website shown on the video. Yeah, hi Sam. Yeah, only a few, but you know what? More people will come, and at least it'll be available for folks to watch afterwards. So anyway, as I said, I went to the American Numismatic Association grading seminar. If you're not a member of the ANA and you're serious into coin collecting, I strongly recommend minimally using their website. Terrific library of information, including webinars. There is a webinar of the particular beginner grading that I went to. I actually went to a 2-day grading seminar with hands-on grading. The webinar is really just the intro. It's about an hour and a half long, so I recommend that you watch it. It's terrific. But I'm going to share with you some of the notes that I took and the information that I learned, and we're going to apply that tonight. And then very much interested in anyone has any opinions as well. I like the concept of consensus grading. And even though it may be a little challenging because you're not holding the coins, I'm hoping that between the large microscope that's able to get the full picture of the coin in, that you will be able to do some grading. All right, so why did I go to that seminar? Well, you can always improve. And while I'm good with technical grading in the uncirculated on up, and sometimes even AU, frankly, if you've watched some of my earlier videos, I need practice and I need more experience and more knowledge, which is why I got the training. So hopefully what I'm able to impart helps you guys. So here's sort of my notes, and this is the key thing that I walked away from that seminar with, is that everyone has the ability to grade coins suitable for one's collection. In other words, don't only rely on expert opinion. Don't only look at coins that are already graded by the grading services. Yes, they add assurance that you're getting something that's problem-free. However, if you're a serious coin collector, it's really important that you know how to grade coins as well. The other thing that's really important to know is that grading is an art, not a science. And what grading is, it's really, and I really like this definition, the state of presentation and establishes a value for sight unseen transactions. That's really the goal of grading, right? So if you're buying coins off of the internet and you're not able to hold them in your hand, even if they're graded by a professional grading service, right? You're at a disadvantage, especially if it's a raw coin like what I have here. So if you're going to a coin show or you're buying a coin, the grade that's assigned, which is an art, is the grader's best view of the presentation and value of the coin. Grading is effectively a short description of a coin, right? In other words, if we say MS64 or extremely fine 40 or fine 12, you should have a sense as to what that means without having a very long description. Give you an example, a long description. If I were to describe this coin without a grade, I might describe it as a 1925 piece dollar, well struck up obverse, details in hairline very strong. It retains much of its original luster. It has great eye appeal. There are some impairments, scratches, in the back fields. No impairments detract from the main devices of the coin. Something along those lines. Or, might be easier if I said MS62, MS63. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that more. MS stands for mint state. We're in an uncirculated condition, which ranges from MS60 to MS70, MS70 being a completely perfect coin. That grading system is known as the Sheldon system, by the way. And I have some of the material that I picked up at that seminar. I like this. It's sort of a compilation of articles and guides about coins and coin grading. And the Sheldon system was created by Dr. William Sheldon in 1949 for the use in his book, Early American Cents. The Sheldon scale is a combination of numbers and letters and was originally intended to be part of a formula for determining market prices. That's the scale that we use. His scale is widely adopted by the grading services. It's adopted by coin dealers and coin collectors. And it's intended to describe the state of a coin. So let's talk about that a bit more, right? So coins that are about circulated and uncirculated, those are assigned something called market grading. Whereas coins that are below about uncirculated, so that would be poor all the way through extremely fine and all the numeric representations in between, that's known as technical grading. Technical grading is criteria based, very strong criteria based. Again, grading is more of an art than a science, but I would say technical grading is probably as close to a science as you can get within the art form itself. Whereas market grading, about uncirculated on up, is really a representation of the value of the coin, right? And in market grading, things like luster, the marks on the coin, the strike, and eye appeal are all factors that are used in market grading. So if you can rule out that the coin has been circulated, there's no wear on, or if there's about uncirculated wear, which basically means the very high points of the coin show some degree of wear, you're really focusing on things like luster. Now, toned coins will be darker in some cases, but there's still luster behind them. And that, and again, it has to do with the state of preservation of the coin. So if there's no wear, even if there is toning and the coin is darker, you are still able to get an uncirculated condition. All right, so how do you approach grading? Well, you need good lighting. I have good lighting, particularly because I have the setup that I have at this combination of microscopes. You need a loupe, a magnifying glass. I do not recommend using microscopes like this one down here, where this piece dollar is under, to do grading. The microscopes that really get close up, like 10, I would say higher than 60 times power, right? Or you use for things like variety hunting and looking at fine details, but you're not going to get a sense of the grade of the coin by zooming in on it. This coin on the top over here is at a much better distance to be able to do a grade. You want to hold the coin and you want to examine it with a naked eye before you magnify it. When you magnify it, what you're really doing is looking for wear on the high points, and you're looking at impairments in the key areas of the coin. That's really the purpose of this loupe or the magnification. But generally speaking, you want to stay at a low power magnification between 5 to 7 times. High power is good, like 10 and above. Sorry, I may have misspoken before, but 10 to 20 times and above is good for varieties, but below 10 is best for grading coins. So, and ideally you're holding the coin about 8 to 12 inches away from you and away from the magnifying glass as well. And you want to look at the obverse, the reverse, and the edge. The key thing here also is, coins have obviously an obverse and a reverse. And it's important to know what is the main device on the coin that's driving the design. Okay, so for example, on piece dollars, the obverse is the money side. For things like buffalo nickels, it happens to be the reverse. So understanding what is the core centerpiece of the coin is important. The reverse of the coin, unless the main side is the reverse, right? So like a buffalo nickel, what I'm saying next around reverses would apply to the obverse. The reverse on most coins, particularly in this case the piece dollar, will detract from the grade. It won't enhance the grade. So in other words, if the money side, the key side, the most desirable side is the obverse, and let's say that is an MS63, well, if the reverse is less than MS63, it's going to potentially lower the overall grade of the coin. However, if the reverse was better than the obverse in this case, like MS66, it doesn't increase the value or increase the overall grade. It's really based on the dominant side of the coin. So in the case of the buffalo nickel, the obverse can only hurt the grade, not enhance it. In the case of the piece dollar, the reverse can only hurt the grade, not enhance it. So hopefully that's clear. That was something that I kind of knew, but I would say that I would by no means always remember that. Sometimes I would consider if a coin's reverse was better, I kind of would elevate, I guess, mentally in my mind the overall condition. Here's another interesting thing that was said at the grading seminar. I don't know this exact source from where the teacher or instructor, who's from the American Numismatic Association, where his source is, but I think he may have estimated, or the market may estimate, that 90% of Morgan dollars have been cleaned. Something to be aware of. I would say probably that's true. The majority of coins are probably clean. Do not clean your coins. It will only reduce the condition and value, not enhance it. I'm not talking about rinsing it with soap and water. I'm talking about putting anything on the surface, be it a Q-tip. Certainly do not scrub the coin. You'll create small scratches in the coin that will be detectable by dealers and people who know how to grade coins. Anyway, luster is really a key factor in uncirculated as well as AU coins. And luster, let me see if I can read my note here. Luster is based on the condition of the dye that's used, right? So the dye that's used in the mint process, after it's used, as it's repeatedly used, luster will dissipate. So, however, also keep in mind that there are peaks in the coins, so they wear down during the minting process. So, also when you clean coins, you will wear down the luster. And luster is a key factor for uncirculated coins in particular. That's really why you can reduce the value of coins. Now, I think if you say polishing a coin, I'll still have luster. It's not going to have the same color of an unclean coin. The luster will be off. I actually have a very polished piece dollar. It's underneath this microscope down here, and I'll put it underneath this camera a little bit later on so you can see the difference. So what else can we talk about? Understand also the difference between coins with a weak strike versus strong strike. It doesn't necessarily change the grade. Some coins were notoriously weakly struck. Sometimes that's due to the design. One of the reasons why the piece dollar is not amongst the more popular coins is that the design, as you can see here, does not have lots of spectacular details. Morgan dollars tend to have much more detail on the obverse and reversed. And so as a result, the design tends to have a bit of a weaker strike to it. Even within this series, you will find well-struck coins and not so well-struck coins, weak strikes. And that's not necessarily a sign of condition. One of the key things is understanding the criteria that's used in grading to determine, am I looking at potentially a weak strike or am I looking at a strong strike? So I would recommend going to the ANA website. PCGS also has great guidelines as well. We're going to be bouncing back and forth between PCGS's PhotoGrade. They have a URL around guidelines for eye appeal. I will see if I can put in the chat the URL of the ANA site that I'm using. If I could figure out how to do the chat here while I'm broadcasting. Let's see. Well, I can't so easily. So what I'm going to do instead is I will put them in comments after the live stream is over. I'll put hyperlinks. Take a look at some of the pinned comment afterwards. Okay, so let's go back to the ANA website. So there's some descriptions here. Even though this particular URL has photos of the Morgan dollar, these descriptions apply pretty much to every coin. And so we're not going to talk about MS70 or MS69. We're going to kind of drop down a bit to, I would say, where most people are collecting. Yes, they're high-end collectors, but let's just talk about the difference between something like MS65 versus MS64 versus MS63. All right, so MS65, I'm going to read the ANA site just in case it's hard to read on the screen that I'm streaming. So MS65 shows an attractive high quality of luster and strike for the date and mint. May have a few scattered contact marks, or two larger marks may be present. Small number or two. One or more small patches of hairlines may show. They're talking about hairlines are not hairlines on the coin design, but they're talking about hairline marks. Noticeable light scuff marks may be seen on high points of the design. And why is that? Well, coins, when they were minted, certainly back in the 1800s and early 1900s, they were put in bags and then shipped in bags, and so they came in contact with each other. So in order for it to be MS65, there might be some scuff marks seen on high points of the design, but I would really say you're really not going to see any. And remember, that's being seen at 5 to 7 times magnification. Overall quality is above average and eye appeal is very pleasing. And then there's a discussion around copper coins. We're going to focus on silver tonight. So anyway, the summary is contact marks, light and scattered without major distracting marks in prime focal areas. So in other words, no impairments in the main focal areas. Each coin has a different focal area. For both the Morgan dollar and the peace dollar, on the obverse, the focal area is the head of Liberty, and particularly the cheek and the face of Liberty, although you don't want to see marks in the back field, the plain field either. And on the reverse, it's the eagle, primarily the chest and wings of the eagle, as well as the field behind it. Eye appeal, key characteristic as well. How does that differ from MS64? So, has at least average luster and strike for the type. So as an example, the coin that I have here, it has luster, right? It's good strike, but as I'm looking at it with my eye, and granted what you're seeing is with some light on it, I don't think it has the luster of an MS65. Right? It's definitely at least average. And there's several small contact marks. I'm not saying this is MS64, I'm just kind of giving you a comparison. So I'll continue reading here. Several small contact marks in groups, so they may be clustered together, as well as one or two moderately heavy marks may be present. I'm not talking gouges, I'm talking a mark that you can really see. Noticeable light scuff marks or defects might be seen within the design or in the field, whereas MS65, really not seeing that in the field itself. Overall quality is attractive, subjective, right? This is a bit of an art with a pleasing eye appeal. And then when we get to MS63, there may be some impairment, slight impairment with the luster. Numerous small contact marks and few scattered heavy marks can be seen. Small hairlines may be visible without magnification. In MS64 and above, you would have to see those hairlines with magnification. Here at MS63, you can see them without magnification, which is one of the reasons why I felt this one is probably in the 63 or 62 range. And I have to study it more. That's just first impression without really looking at it, because there are scratches on this peace dollar just above the 5 and the date and below trust, and they're very visible to me, the naked eye, and there's a scratch along the neck as well, but it's light scratch. Then we go to MS62. An impaired or dull luster may be evident, right? So the luster has a dullness to it. There may be clusters of small marks throughout the coin with large marks or nicks in the prime focal areas. Again, marks and nicks are different. A mark, you can think of it as something, kind of what you're seeing here. A nick is a little more gouged in it, right? There may be a coin may have hit another coin as a ding in it, right? And I'm not talking around the rim. I'm talking, what they call it, a nick, right? Hairlines may be very noticeable. Large unattractive scuff marks may be seen on a major feature. So quite possibly what we have here might be a 62 as well. And it's a beautiful coin. It's got what I think is great eye appeal. But we're talking about a coin that has some impairments on it, right? The strike, rim, the planchet quality may be a little bit below average. Like I said, I need to study this one a bit more. So you kind of have that sense of the difference between 62, 63, and 64, as well as 65, with 65 being considered brilliant uncirculated or mint state coin, otherwise known as sort of investment grade. That's where the investment grade starts and goes up. All right, I'm not going to read below this, but I'm going to jump down to, I'm not going to talk about the almost uncirculated, right? Because almost uncirculated and uncirculated, again, that's market grading, which is really influenced on value as much as eye appeal. But when you get to extremely fine and below, now you're dealing with technical grading where there's very specific criteria. You can read this in a number of sources. I think the Red Book is really good at this, so I'm going to read a couple different things. So on ANA, has light overall wear on the coin's highest points. All design details are very sharp. Mint luster is usually seen only in protected areas of the coin's surface. Right? So in the case of, well, I guess a lot of our coins have stars. Certainly there are letter spaces. In other words, you can see the luster only in the spaces, not in the main fields, right? I'll give you a description from the Red Book. So extremely fine, and this is now specific about the peace dollar. Hairlines above the brow and ear are strong, though slightly worn. Outside wing feathers at right and those at top visible, but are faint. And that's talking, the latter is talking about the reverse. And so if we go to another source, and then I'll still read EF, and this is the detailed book on the ANA grading standards. Extremely fine, very light wear on only the highest points. EF40, which is what I've been reading. Aver, slight flattening is visible on the high points of the hair. That's the key thing to know, is the high points on a coin, because that's where the wear will start. Most hair strands are clearly separated. Entire face and lower edge of neck are slightly worn. And then we go talk about the reverse. Is wear shows on the head, this would be on the eagle, behind the eye, and the top of the neck. Some flat spots are visible on central wing. So there's a high point on the wing on the reverse of this. So you can see some wear on that, and leg feathers. Okay, so that's a bit about some of the grades of the peace dollars. The PCGS photo grade has got some great photographic examples that we can look at and compare the coins that we're going to be looking at tonight. Again, I have 20 peace dollars to look at. We'll try to grade them ourselves. We'll use photo grade as a reference, as well as the documentation I have. There's also a location on the PCGS site around guidelines for eye appeal. Right? So here's something interesting. Eye appeal is one component of the grade, and for coins grading above MS60, right? So that's the start of uncirculated. So MS60 is fairly an ugly coin. Sometimes AU58 and AU55 might actually have greater eye appeal than an MS60, right? So they're talking about eye appeals is above MS60. It's one of the four components, right? So they're talking very similar thing. And again, it's around the number and severity of the marks and the abrasions, luster for business strike coins, reflectivity for proofs, but two different types of luster based on how the coin is produced. We're not going to talk about proof coins tonight. We're really talking about business strike or coin struck for circulation. And then the strike. They really talk about, again, strike is not really a problem for proofs, but for circulation, coins intended for circulation. A weak strike can deduct the value or deduct the grade. So again, there are additional things around the amount of wear. This is the most important factor for grading. Marks and abrasions again, luster. Right? And then here we'll talk about the technical grade of the coin is based on factors above, not taking eye appeal into consideration. So that's a key thing, right? We talked about technical grading is below about uncirculated. So once you get to about uncirculated and uncirculated coins, eye appeal, which is very subjective, comes into play. Okay, so there are some standards, minimum standards for eye appeal that this site talks about. And again, look at the terms being used. Amazing, positive, very subjective, right? Now this is a coin, amazing is you look at the coin and go, wow, right? For example. Or you look at it and go, wow, that's it's a nice looking coin. Or, hey, this coin, very solid, very appealing. And then you kind of get, oh, okay. It's common, looks good, it's got decent eye appeal. Again, very subjective. Then you get below average and start looking at it, you can see some toning on the coin. Now some toning, like this one above, kind of has a wow factor, right? Because there's still great luster, and then you have some color over here. It's a naturally toned coin, but as we go down to coins like this, which is also toning, as well as natural tarnish from the effects of oxidation on silver, kind of get a little bit of a meh, less appealing. And that influences grade, and it also influences value. And then you have some downright ugly coins. You don't, typically most collectors would not find a silver coin that's yellowish or orangish or brownish as appealing as those that are neutral and above average. Even though there is tarnish and or toning here, you still have a lot of coin you can look at and go, well, that combination is, wow, very, very subjective. And you have downright ugly coins. And these could be uncirculated, right? They may have no signs of wear whatsoever. But generally, you begin taking off points. And sometimes, if they have environmental damage, they don't get any grade. Really depends, right? And this is what cleaning can do to coins. Not necessarily make them ugly, but they can detract from the eye appeal, because the cleaning removes the natural luster of a coin. All cleaning removes the natural luster of a coin. Polishing ruins the coin because it ruins details. And that's the key reason why people say do not clean your coins. Okay, so that being said, we have the first coin underneath this camera, and I'm going to put on gloves to handle these coins. I don't want to transfer any of the oils on my fingers, even though they're clean. We all have natural oil on our hands at all times. I don't want to transfer oil to the coin, which could detract from it. Could leave a thumbprint or a fingerprint, which you can't get off at that point. I'm wearing disposable vinyl gloves, latex. I'm not sure it really matters. Wear whatever you're comfortable wearing as long as you're protecting the coin from the oils on your hands. Okay, so let's start with this 1925. We've already talked a bit about it. I'm going to pick it up at this point. I'm going to flip it to the reverse so we can get a good look at the reverse underneath the camera as well. And the reverse seems to have more luster than the obverse. And I looked at the reverse and my immediate thought was, wow, that's a above average luster. It's got maybe better eye appeal than the obverse. But what did I say earlier? Well, the reverse and the piece dollar can only hurt the grade. It can't improve it. So that's positive, right? We have what looks like a really nice coin. I'm going to now pick it up and I'm going to examine it. And I'm going to have to take off my eyeglasses to do this since I need them for distance. And I'm going to hold this 12 inches away. And as I look at this coin, I see just a tremendous amount of detail in the hairline. It still has original luster. There are some minor scratches, but now I'm going to scrutinize this coin using this loop, and I'm going to look to see if there are any traces of wear on the high points, because there is a very fine line between an AU58 or an AU55 and an MS62 and MS63. I know that may sound silly, but the main difference is they could have the same luster and the same eye appeal, but there could be some wear on the high points. That's really the core difference. And if there's wear on the high points, it could be, well, it won't be uncirculated. I'll say that. It would be at least AU. So as I'm studying this, I do see some scratches. I see scratches throughout the coin, light ones, but they're definitely there. I don't see wear on the high points on the obverse. And as I look at the reverse, and believe me, I'm not going to spend this much time on technical grading because I don't need to study it as much because, well, frankly, we're not trying to debate the difference between uncirculated and AU, because if we're at a technical grade, we know it's definitely circulated. I think this is uncirculated. This is a really beautiful peace dollar. We'll put it back underneath the camera. I'm going to put this in a flip. I think this is at least an MS62. It could be an MS63. Let's get a comparison photo from the PGS site. See if I can jump to it. And then you can begin to see dramatic difference in luster now. And let's take a look at MS62 versus MS63. It's interesting because there's some scratches on both. And the coin that I'm looking at does not have as many scratches. Let's take a look at the MS62. Yeah, this example, I would say, has the same wear. I'm sorry, same lack of wear, same details as the example that I have. But this has impairments, which is why it's an MS62. Has more impairments than the coin that we have. Let's take a look at MS63. Okay, so we see a mark here, just below Liberty. So there are more, I would say there are more marks on this one than the one that I have, although I do see a mark on our coin just next to the Y in Liberty, so I want to study that a bit more, because I think we're better than 62. All right, that's just some toning. It's actually not a mark. So we might be in an MS63 range. Let's take a look at 64. Yeah, so you can see the less marks in the field. I think our 1925 has more marks than the one shown, so I don't think we have an MS64. We see marks on ours below trust, above trust. So I'm thinking we have a coin quite comparable to this MS63. So I'm going to call it MS63. I feel very good about the grade. Curious as to what you think the grade is. By the way, I'm just getting a flip out so we can put it in a flip and write down the grade so that we don't have to do this over and over again with the same coin. We have a nice large flip here. But I also want to take a look at the gray sheet, which is what dealers use to establish the price and value of coins. So at MS63, which is what I think this coin is, we're looking between, well, you could probably find the coin between $50 and $65 in that range, depending upon your geographic location, the dealer, the type of margin they're looking for. So we're going to call this MS63. I think this was a really good pickup from the in the 20 that I purchased. I have to get more staples. Well, that's going to disrupt the flow of this live stream. Sorry, guys. Nothing worse than running out of staples when you're trying to secure coin flips. All right, we got more staples here. We'll just finish stapling this flip, and we'll write the condition on the flip. We got 1925 from Philadelphia, MS63. All right, so that's the first one. As I said, I had one that was highly polished, pretty much ruined. Here it is. Super shiny, right? Look at the lack of details in the hairline. Look at the color of the coin. Yes, it's silver, but it's dreadful. I think it's lost all eye appeal. Yes, it's a nice shiny coin. But look at the scratches in the field. I believe this coin has effectively lost pretty much all of its numismatic value, but it's still a silver coin, and therefore I think it would retain certainly its silver value. So I would say that this coin, let's just use for argument's sake the lowest condition, about good. right? Even though there's more details than the About Good grade. Because it's polished, I can't say it's higher than that. About Good coin, or what I would price, you can think about a silver melt, and it's a U.S. coin, so it's, you know, they sell for more than silver melt. I would say this would sell at 24 times, 25 times face value for the silver content and the fact that it's a U.S. peace dollar. But I mean, yes, super shiny, but that's not luster. That's polish. It's dreadful. So I'm not going to put it in a flip. I have a little bag. I'm going to put it in a little bag, call it like a body bag, but I'm going to put this for coins that I'm not going to grade and try to sell at a graded value. I would just sell this as constitutional silver, bulk silver. And there's still many collectors who like it. I think it's fantastic. If you're going to collect silver bullion, for example, like the American Eagles, you know, it's terrific. They're wonderful. An alternative where you might spend less money on would be constitutional silver like the Morgan dollar or the peace dollar that's been polished, if your goal is to amass silver. And silver prices, it's a precious metal, right? Silver prices fluctuate all the time. All right, let's move on to the next coin. I'm going to put this 1922 here. I'm going to put one of the other coins underneath the microscope as an example. I'm going to keep dollars showing so that people know that we're looking at dollars. So this coin, as you can see, does not have a lot of its original luster left. And in fact, there is wear on the coin. So this is not uncirculated. If we think about the last coin and we compare it to this coin, there's a loss of detail in the hair, certainly. So now we're at a technical grade. And at a technical grade, we have to figure out, well, how much detail remains so we can figure out where in the technical grading from poor all the way to extremely fine this sits. And that becomes a bit more of a criterion-based thing. So let's start with extremely fine again. Slight flattening is visible in the high points of the hair. Most hair strands are clearly separated. I don't think so. And how about the entire face and lower edge of neck are slightly worn. Yeah, maybe. I don't see tremendous wear on those areas, but I do see lack of detail. I also see marks, chip, mark, ding, right where the ear would be. I don't know if you could see it, but right over there. Let's take a look at the reverse. All right, we see more details in the reverse than we do in the obverse. But again, in this coin, the reverse is not the most desirable side. It's the obverse because of the design. So this cannot help the coin. At least what we're saying is the reverse doesn't lower the grade further in this big picture. So wear shows on head behind eye and top of neck. Some flat spots are visible. So I do think the reverse is pretty solid, but I don't think the obverse is. So now we got to really study this. Okay. Well, there is separation in the hair. There is wear on it, and there's still original luster. This might be EF. It's certainly at least a very fine. Yeah, there still is quite a bit of detail in the hairline. And what I thought was a big mark or ding was just the shadow from the light source over here, which is why it's really important to study them by hand. So this one I think is EF40. And at EF40, all right, we're looking at a coin that's worth between $35 to $40. So not bad. Certainly you see the difference in value between those two. Make sure there's no mint mark. Yeah, that's Philadelphia Mint. I forgot to look for that. I didn't see any of the VAM indications on the coin, which really just die breaks. A great source for varieties is the Cherry Picker's Guide. Something I use. So here we got 1922 EF40. And less subjective of a grade, I would say, than the uncirculated grade. All right, let's move on to the next coin. And it's another 1922. Let's go to the PhotoGrade site, because I think we're looking at a coin, another EF coin. So let's get a photo comparison. Let's look at EF40. It's interesting. There are more hair details on this one than the EF40. Now we're about, with 45, a very similar amount of details. AU, and let me look at the other one that we graded, EF40. Yeah, I think this one that I just picked up, yeah, you know what? Between these two, they could be AU, but they're still can wear on the high points, more wear than I would like, even though they're still original luster. They're really pleasant looking coins for sure. But I think we got an XEF45 on the last coin. Maybe even AU50 on the last coin. I'm going to upgrade that in comparison with this photo comparison. And I'm going to call this one EF45. I think the last coin we looked at has more detail and more eye appeal than this particular coin. Still a nice coin with original luster to it. But I would say this 1922 EF45, and the last one I want to study some more now that we're comparing it a bit. Again, it takes time, right? You got to study these. You have to look in comparison. I have, I think, an AU50 on the screen. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is why I like consensus grading with other colleagues, is we all kind of see slightly different things. This one, maybe more detail than I was giving credit for. Peace dollars can be challenging to grade because they are not strongly struck and do not have tons of detailed devices on it. And so I'm also using this for myself to get more practice at grading them. All right, so the AU coin kind of puts that in the 47.50 range-ish. Probably if I were going to say if you wanted a good average price would be about $45 on it. EF45, you're looking around $40, and of course the MS63, we're looking at around $60 to $65. So prices change, but that's really where we're at right now. Let's take a look at the next coin. Okay, this one, wow, that's a really nice coin. Lot of luster, more luster than the last two examples. More impairments. We see more scratches, certainly more on the reverse than the obverse. Let's study the coin again and take a look at it underneath the microscope. Again, I'm going to look to see if there's anywhere on the high points. Yeah, there is. There's some flattening. There's more detail in it, but there is some wear on the high point. So this is not uncirculated. If there was no wear, this at best would be MS62. But this has more detail than the other example. This is, I would say, pretty close. Well, it's at least an AU55. It could be even an AU58. That's a 53. This has more detail than the 53. This is the 55. Yeah, this coin, I would say, compares quite nicely to this 55. And the 58 has slightly less wear than the one that I'm looking at. 53. By the way, this one is a little weaker struck than this one, by the way. Tell by the hairlines, but I am bouncing back and forth between a 53 and a 55 on this particular example. Yeah, we're going to call this a 53. I see very comparable wear as the example here. A little too much wear on the high points for 58 in my opinion, but all the luster is there on this coin, which is why you can find AU coins that look and have a lot of the characteristics of uncirculated coins, like this one does. I mean, look, this has really, in my opinion, really nice eye appeal. A really nice looking coin. But there's circulated wear on it. So we said AU53, 1922, I believe it was. It is. And again, we're looking at around a coin that's $45-ish. It's interesting, the price difference between an AU50, an AU53, an AU55, and an AU58, it's all roughly the same value. It's an AU coin. Price goes up to the 50s on up. When you're dealing with low-grade MS 60 to 62, you're in around the $50 range. 63, you jump up to $60 range, and in MS 64, you jump up to the $80 range. Condition matters, and it is subjective. Let's take a look at this next coin. I'm going to leave the other one underneath the zoom-in microscope. More luster on this one. But look at the marks. Those are fairly strong impairments in undesirable places. So again, it's not about the details. It's about the entire coin. You got a little bit of a ding on the rim. A lot of micro scratches, but there's a lot of luster on this coin, a lot of original luster on this coin, some light toning around the edges. I do not believe this coin has been cleaned. I'm thinking this is probably an MS62. I want to study it underneath the microscope. It's not as ugly as an MS61, and MS60s can be downright ugly compared with maybe AU coins at times. Very subjective, I know. But I think we're looking at an MS62 on this one. Let's take a look at the reverse real quickly. Okay, well, the reverse does not detract from the coin. I would say the reverse is showing less wear than the obverse, less scratches. Again, it doesn't enhance the coin, it just doesn't lower the grade further. So let's take off, again, the eyeglasses. You guys are beginning to see the routine and the pattern here. We're going to study the coin and look for wear on the high points. And I am not seeing wear on the high points. I see scratches. Look at the reverse. Look at the eagle. Yeah, the shoulder and head of the, yeah. This is an uncirculated coin. Not as good as the first example. We're going to call this MS62. So we're looking at a $50 coin. Okay. Hoping you guys are finding this interesting and educational. If you do, just a friendly reminder, if you're not a subscriber, hey, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my content if you want more of this type of content. Hope you're enjoying the video. Give me a thumbs up if you are. Appreciate that. And I also hope you love coin collecting as much as I do. I think it's a great hobby, and one of my missions is to get more collectors, particularly younger collectors. All right, we got the next coin. Yes, it's another 1922. There were a lot of 1922s in this pile. Less luster, okay? Looks like more wear, more scratches. I think we're dealing with an AU coin, quite possibly. Probably AU 50 if I had to take an educated guess without deeply examining it. Okay, here we have a reverse that's a little bit ugly compared to the obverse. Less luster, less eye appeal. So again, it's like, I don't think the wear on it is very high. It's just you lost a lot of luster. So again, I'm thinking this is in the AU range. Again, I want to study it underneath a magnification. Yeah, there is some wear on the high points. There's light wear, not heavy wear. So it has all the details. And let's take a look at the reverse. And yeah, there's some wear on the high point of the wing. Still a lot of details. This is better than EF. I think we're at a market grade, not a technical grade. But I would say we're looking at an AU 50 coin. Looking at maybe a $10 value difference between AU and EF. But if we go to Photograde, just to have comparison, I'm using this instead of consensus. I think the coin that we have on the screen here, this one, yeah, much less wear. I'm not talking about color. Dealing with loss of luster for sure, but I'm feeling very confident that we're looking at an AU coin, at least an AU 50. Someone might even grade it higher. I'm not inclined to. Again, that's why I like consensus grading. But we have a nice solid AU coin with luster remaining. Not a lot of luster, not a lot of wear. And I'm hoping that you agree with the grade. If you don't, hey, put something in the chat if you're on the live stream. If not, leave a comment if you're watching this pre-recorded. AU 50, 1922. And I think Philadelphia again. Yes, no mint mark near the wing. Okay, so we've gotten through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coins. And yes, we do. Oh, 7 with the highly polished one, which we're not assigning a grade to. We're going to move on to this next one. Okay, this has a ding on the rim. That's unfortunate. And it has very little luster left. So this coin, I want to study the wear. I'm pretty sure there is wear. I don't think coins lose this much luster without the wear. Yeah, there is wear. And what I thought was a ding isn't really a ding. That's toning. It's a little tarnished, but there is a ding in the R, not at the rim. So that actually makes me feel a bit better that the coin does look better in the hand than under the camera. You can really see that because I can put it on different angles here rather than flat. I think we're looking at a coin again that's extremely fine. Oh no, there's a lot of wear on the reverse. Yeah, a lot of loss of details in the breast feathers of the eagle. So, feather detail on right wing is weak. There's wear on the leg feathers and the neck. So I think we're maybe looking at a VF30 just because of the wear on the reverse. So there's more detail than what's being described, but I don't think this Some flat spots are visible in the central rig and leg feathers. This is a VF35. It's better than 30. It's not as good as an extremely fine. Again, it's because of the reverse. There is just more wear on the reverse than it is on the obverse. Obverse, I would say, is a solid EF. Reverse is a VF. We're going to land on a high end of a VF35, which would make this coin between $32 and $35. Still more than silver melt, right? Silver melt's around 25. And that could be a really nice album filler for a new collector or someone who is trying to complete an album a little bit on the less expensive side. All right, this is a really nice coin. But I can tell immediately it's not uncirculated. There's wear right over here. You can see flattening of it, and it's concentrated in that area. I would expect you to see wear on the reverse as well. Less wear on the reverse, but there's somewhere on the high point of the feather. So I think we're looking at an AU coin, but the luster is there. Absolutely there. So let's take a look here. Yeah, there's wear. I'm thinking AU58. Yeah, an AU58 mainly for two reasons compared to some of the other ones. The amount of original luster left, and the eye appeal. So it's all there. So we got a 1922 Philadelphia. Yes, a lot of 22s in this pile. AU58. Write it down in the flip so we don't forget. Okay. And we're going to wrap up tonight's video. I don't like recording hours upon hours. I think, frankly, it could be difficult for someone to get through as well. So we're going to wrap up this video shortly, around the hour mark, which we're at now, with this final coin, which looks like has more detail than the other coins, a little less luster. This coin, first opinion, without looking underneath a hand loop, is possibly uncirculated. I see an impairment near the rim. It's a ding, but the details are there. The reverse has more luster. This might be an MS61 coin. I'm going to call this up here. Oop. Reference photo. I'm going to take a look in the loop. I think the example that we have has less impairments than the one on the screen on the obverse. Now there's wear. This is an AU coin. We're going to call this AU55. And with that, we're going to wrap up tonight's live stream. I might make a part 2 with the others in the set. I think we got through about half of these. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it helpful. And I want to wish everyone who's watching many thanks and